Now, what I'm about to show you is quite controversial because when we think about the definition of social engineering, is that something that we have been seeing for a long time in our society? By a few group of elites engineering what it is exactly how they want the behavior to go in a society? Absolutely. Can we create people and images and present them how we want them to be? Is it smoke and mirrors in Hollywood? Are you actually getting what you see, or is it dark, twisted, and demented, wilder than your deepest imagination? You all, a lot of people look up to Tupac, right? What if I showed you a clip of Tupac Shakur in high school? You know, Tupac grew up in a single mother household. And we've talked about that, how important it is that the family unit stays together, how important it is to have a father, a strong father figure in the household. You see, when you don't have that father in the household and the mother's trying to do everything, it leaves an open door, I say, of opportunity where things happen to children when they're placed in care, and people don't have the ability to really watch their children the way they would if maybe they had the support of someone else being in the household. Not to say these things can't happen in a two-parent household, but you leave your boys and your girls very vulnerable when there's not a father figure in the household. That's what we see with P. Diddy. You all, we'll talk about that in a little bit, how P. Diddy, I believe he is just a product of his environment. His father died, murdered when he was 3, raised in a single home household. Who knows if he wasn't abused himself? And hurt people hurt others often when they don't get those things dealt with, right? The traumas that they've been through, they often victimize other people. Now, I'm going to show you a clip of Tupac. He had to be around 17 or 18. But I just want to show you the ability for an industry to take one thing and make it into a hip hop superstar. Take a look.
But it's harder to see the bad things, and everybody wants to shield the bad things, and that's where it gets complicated and it gets real rotten. That's when everybody gets surprised and, oh my God, I'm committing suicide. That's too much, overwhelming. If you know about it, it won't be so overwhelming. So that's what I think about that.
So how do you keep so positive? You say that you had a problem childhood, but yet you seem like you've gotten above that.
Is that, like if you are lost in the wilderness and you have a guide, then it's not like being lost. It's like learning new things as you go through. So when you finally get through, you forgot where you were going to. You just want to talk about the path that you just went. And that's how I feel. Like life, my childhood was just totally lost at first because, okay, I gotta go to the beginning. My mother was a Black Panther, and she was really involved in the movement, just Black people bettering themselves and things like that. My father was a hustler, street hustler, I think he, sold drugs and everything. And how did they get together is beyond me, but he just saw her as a woman doing something and But, so my mother and father both had bad childhoods. And I never knew who my father was. I met him, but he died, and that was horrible, but got over that.
Now, child, I could have fell out of my chair when I saw that clip. Is that the Tupac? The I Get Around Tupac? The Hail Mary Tupac? Is that the Tupac that you all were presented? Because I've got questions, you all. I got a whole lot of questions, but this is what I'm talking about with social engineering. So we've got a lot to discuss today. I've got a lot of clips I want to show you, so let's get to it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Pearls of Eden. Thank you for joining me. My name is Marilyn Acosta, and today we're going to keep on the topic of current news. We're going to take a look at music. we all know that music is so very powerful. And when you think about music and the impact that it has on a culture and a nation to shift, to present a mindset, when you think about who our children are looking up to and how it influences them, it really makes you want to take a closer look at what it is you're allowing inside of your ear gates. Now, we know that P. Diddy is all over the news. And I was intrigued by his story because growing up, P. Diddy was everywhere. He was with all the top artists, all of the groups. You know, if you were in my age group, making the band, all of those things, you were entertained by MTV. And there was just this quite fascination of seeing him rise to be such this mogul, this rap star, this music mogul, and what that meant. And his story is just fascinating because many of you may not even know that P. Diddy's father was a drug dealer. He lost his father at 3 years old to murder, because he was murdered, you know, because he was caught up in the drug game. So there's a lot to be said there. And when you look at P. Diddy and the man that he is today, and I will say, I read the court documents and it's quite disturbing. Many of these things we've heard through the rumor mill. It's been all over the television, newspapers. You know, you have had to been under a rock not to know the things, not just with P. Diddy, but that go on behind the scenes in the music industry. And side note, just some of your favorite entertainers are not who they present themselves to be, and not these ladies' men that they claim to be. And as I was reading the documents, a lot of the allegations were saying that, you know, P. Diddy blackmails those that he has encounters with, or that he finds out information about. And so he puts them in these compromised positions, and it's because either he drugged them or they were complicit in some way to these things, and then he uses it against them. And of course, who wants to be known for kissing a guy or being seen in that light, especially if that's not the lifestyle that you are living, but because you were intoxicated or drugged, you found yourself in a really bad situation. And like Cat Williams said, you just gotta tell P. Diddy no. You gotta say no, because he liked the party. And it is obvious throughout the reading of the court documents, oh, he loves to party and he likes to drug people and get people intoxicated, himself even highly intoxicated. But let's keep going. It is definitely strange world. And when you think about rappers, when you think about how much influence they have on the Black community, the Hispanic community, really the world, it makes you think about the influence and what is being done. Is there some type of social engineering that's happening? And I know a lot of people, when you say social engineering, they think, could it be that sinister? Yes, because unfortunately we don't war against flesh and blood, right? But against principalities and high places. And nothing is as what it seems. This is why you have to really study to show yourself approved. You really have to stay prayed up. You really have to understand that there is so much more than what we see in the natural. So I just wanted to talk to you all about that today. When I was looking at the court case, you all, it is just disturbing, quite disturbing. Many people are saying that P. Diddy is like Jeffrey Epstein of the music industry, and that his counterpart that was helping him to get all of these girls and guys and sex trafficking was like the Giselle to Epstein. So it's really interesting. It's out there for public knowledge if you do want to take a look at the court documents. It is really interesting, but it is quite disturbing. And I will say that T.D. Jake's name was in the document, but not like people were saying. And I think this is why it's so important that you don't rush to judgment and that you are led by the Spirit of God and you have discernment, because we live in a society where people will rush to put your name out there and to sabotage your character very quickly, but they're very slow, if at all, to restore your character. And as I looked in those court documents, all it said that was TD Jakes, that actually P. Diddy was trying to use his connection, to use the positive influence that TD Jakes has in order to make himself look like he was in a good standing citizen, because at that time Cassie was bringing up charges against his character. That's a whole nother case, court document that really started all of this, and hers is quite fascinating as well and disturbing. So just so you all know, we have to be very careful that we're not quick to pick up our stones and judge people and throw them away, because as I read through those court documents, TD Jakes had nothing to do with any of those freak-offs or any of those allegations that were being thrown at him. So just so you know, be very quick not to pick up a stone and to join the mob gathering, okay? But that's not even what I was talking about. I'm talking about the social engineering that rap music and music in general has on a culture. And I want you to listen to Ice Cube, because he really articulately expresses how basically there are two groups that we all know that basically run the world: Black Rock and Vanguard. And I have talked about them in other videos, but they are a powerful group of elite people that control a lot of things. They control the rap music industry as well as the prison systems. So it just lets you know they are highly invested in the downfall of a people, and it's not by coincidence. So take a look at this clip and we'll come back and talk.
It's changing every, something like 20 or 30 years. Somebody wants to put a new label on the same thing.
You mean ethnic names?
Yeah,
Right.
It seems like, you go from this to that and the other.
Right.
At the end of the day. And,
People of color used to be, reversed 50 years ago.
Yeah, and it's just done to really keep us bickering and, chasing these words.
Okay, so
and not really getting to the root of the issues, which are most of the time very common if we really go down to the root of it.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
But you said it's being done to divide us. Okay, by who? Who's doing it?
Well, who benefits and profits off our bickering and our division? It's
Who?
like follow the money. I don't know their names, Bill, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see, okay, this is an industry. Okay, let's take rap music.
Let's take it.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons. So
Literally the same people?
literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. So, it seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that, the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't. Certain flavors are exposed on the record. Some records are made by committee. Meaning record company guys sit around and tell the artists, this is hot, say that, do this. We're gonna have this guy write the lyrics. We're gonna have that. So the narrative is really kind of, you know, structured and really made into what the record company want the record to be, and what the, you know, a lot of artists are frustrated with this kind of music making. You know, a lot of people, you know, feel like they're being controlled by the label. This is how they do it. So you have, you know, the record company pushing the narrative, you know, and you know, so this to me is in somewhat, you know, some social engineering going on here to make sure those prisons stay full. Now, there's a lot of dots to connect to make that happen, but I'm just giving you a broad example of how people at the top can manipulate what's going on with the people who are bickering and fighting. I just gave you a music example, but there's examples of race.
Can I cross-examine this theory?
Of course you can cross-examine, of course.
No, I know, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if your theory is that the prison industrial complex, and I agree, that's an abomination. Start off with there. Prison I've done editorials on this on my show. Prison is one of those things that should not be in private hands.
Yes.
Along with healthcare, a few other things that are like, you know, the good part of socialism. They should not be run by people for profit. I agree with that.
Yes.
I did not know about this connection to the music industry, that it's the exact same people. If by that you mean that the people who run the record companies may have stock in prisons, private prisons, that's possible because they all have, I mean, do they actually like Monday, Tuesday go to work as a record company executive and Wednesday through Friday go to work at the prisons? No.
Okay,
so
of course they're not actually running the labels.
They have
things.
financial interest in it.
They have financial interest.
Okay, so if they have financial interest in the prisons, and your theory, if I'm following correctly, is that the kind of stuff in rap lyrics works as a funnel to get people inspired to do the kind of things that would get them in prison, right? Like, for example, writing a lyric, "fuck the police."
Yeah, I mean, writing a lyric, "fuck the police,"
might get somebody arrested and sent to prison.
That might get somebody arrested and sent to prison. That's just one example, one record that the record company did not manipulate. You know, that's pure artistry.
Right.
But I've seen labels. I've worked with artists.
Did they manipulate you?
No, I'm an independent artist. Always have been. I started off on independent labels.
So how were you able to avoid this trap that so many others fell in?
All right, so there it is. I told you it was going to be very interesting. Social engineering. Are these people in Hollywood and in the music industry, is it all a business where they're playing a role so that they can, you know, get people to act in a certain way, go and flow in a certain way to develop people's mindset? You know, I think so. I say yes, it is definitely social engineering at its best. And what we're seeing is actors playing a role. And you know, this is 2024 where things are just being exposed for what they are. And I think it's quite possible, I think it's quite plausible that it's just a business that's ran by, as Kanye West has been sounding the alarm. No matter what you think of him, the man tells a lot of truth, okay, about who is truly running the industry and what is the real agenda behind it. The ulterior motives are more sinister than you can ever dream up. But I think it's good to have these conversations. I think it's good for us to, you know, talk about these things. Could it be a psyop? Is this just a mastermind game that they are playing where you can take someone like, you all saw what Tupac Shakur was back then and how they made him to be what he was, presented to the media, to society as this hard thug person, when actually he went to a fine art school. He was going to be an actor. but they can take you and mold you and shape you into whatever it is that they want you to be and present you to the public. And there was a price for that. Hey, you know what? What if we shoot you up? What if you play this hard gangster? You go to jail, you do this. There's a cost to play in the game. But hey, we'll have Suge Knight pick you up, throw you some big bags of cash. I'm just saying, and you get to be this big bad gangster, right? But of course, the devil don't play fair, so it never ends well. But there's just a lot to think about. This last clip that I'm going to show you is of Dolores Tucker, and she was saying what many of us understood and know, but she was saying it back in the 90s. She was sounding the alarm. She was a watchman on the wall, and many people just labeled her a sellout, like she just was not with the times. Oh, she was with the times. She was well understanding of what was happening more than many could perceive. But yeah, let's take a listen to what Dolores Tucker was actually trying to warn everyone about. Take a look.
I am here to put the nation on notice that violence perpetuated against women through the music industry in the forms of gangster rap and misogynist lyrics will not be tolerated any longer. Principle must come before profit. A year ago, I established the National Political Congress of Black Women's Entertainment Commission, headed by Dionne Warwick, Melba Moore, Terry Rossi of Billboard magazine, and Vaughn Alexander, our director. It had one primary goal: the task of examining and developing strategies and solutions for reshaping and maintaining positive images to preserve the dignity and the heritage of our youth. Instead of continuously exposing our youth to negative media that distorts their images of male-female relationships, that undermines the stability of our families, communities, and nation by encouraging violence, abuse, and sexism as acceptable behaviors, and perpetuates the cycle of low self-esteem of African American youth. Thus, images that degrade our dignity and are an insult to our children, our families, and communities concern us too. And that includes all this gangster rap and misogynist lyrics. Music that glorifies and promotes violence with guns, knives, or drugs, and denigrates and defames women. And with the release of Snoop Doggy Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, that includes artwork that is nothing but pornographic smut, available to any child to go in and buy with the album and with a record. That has got to stop. If you want to know why I'm on the warpath, when I saw this, I said, that's it. We march again, and we're going to keep on marching and demonstrating the truth. All
Well, I hope that you all enjoyed today's topic, current news, something to think about and to ponder about social engineering. But most importantly, it's just for us to open our eyes and understand that there is more to this world than we can understand in the natural, that we do not war against flesh and blood, but against spiritual principalities and wickedness in high places. And we have to stay armored up in the armor of God. And God is so faithful to open our eyes so that we understand and we see and we know exactly what we're warring against, that we understand the devices of the enemy. You have to know your opponent, but most importantly, we know on who we stand, and our hope is in Christ. We trust in Christ, and we know that He is the one that keeps and preserves us, and glory be to God for that, because this world is filled with so many wicked agendas, but it is the Lord's agenda that will ultimately prevail. All right, I love you all to life. Thank you for joining me. I'm gonna go and enjoy my children and go do something fun this afternoon, and I hope that you all do too. Don't forget, please subscribe, like, share. I love you to life. See you next time. Bye.